Oh, hello. Now, I'm sure that you've seen Black Panther by now, and you're here to hear some spoilers. At least I hope you are, because if you haven't seen Black Panther, I'm going to spoil the living shit out of it today. Actually, I've already done a non spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie or you don't want any spoilers, I strongly suggest you go check that one out right here or wherever it pops up at whatever point in time. But I've already done that review. Check that one out if you want spoilers, or if you don't want spoilers. If you want the spoilers, you're in the right place. Now, I'm not going to give a beat for beat recount of the movie or anything. I'm just going to talk over a few spoilers. There's not a ton of spoilers in this movie, honestly, but I'm just going to talk about some things I couldn't talk about in as much detail in my actual spoiler-free review. So let's just go ahead and jump right into that. But if you're not wanting spoilers, once again, this is a spoiler review, or spoiler talk rather. So you've been warned. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Spoilers! Alright, so like I said, there's not a whole lot to spoil here, and really just like the first whole half of the movie is our characters grieving about Chadwick Boseman or King T'Challa's passing. And that's understandable, I didn't have a problem with that, but I do think they could have tightened a lot of this up. We have a lot of scenes of people just sitting around talking about stuff. Now, I'm cool with that. That's called character development. Character development builds great characters you get invested in, great characters that you're invested in when they get in danger, you feel for them. You don't want bad things to happen to them, but they took it a bit far here. There were times I was just kind of nodding off. And in all honesty, the whole T'Challa situation and Chadwick Boseman's passing, that's really only about the first maybe 15, maybe 20 minutes of the movie, if even that. And then it actually goes into its story. But oh my god, it takes so long to get there. We get Namor, he comes along, and everything is just so stretched out. Some people are calling this a slow burn. I love me a slow burn. This is not a slow burn, it's just fucking slow. Now, when we get to about the halfway point of the movie, things do pick up. And this is around the point that Namor and or Neymar, however they're saying it, I don't know. That guy, the villain, he attacks Wakanda. When he attacks Wakanda, this is when the spoilery stuff starts to happen. Now, he attacks because he's like, hey, you guys, he wants this scientist who created this thing that can detect vibranium, can't even say that word right, and that is apparently a college-age kid, 19-year-old, and that would be the character Riri, who is Ironheart, who has no fucking place in this movie whatsoever, really, beyond the fact that she's the scientist, the creator of this thing. She is shoehorned as a motherfucker in this movie, but all that aside, we'll get to her in a little bit. Namor comes, he attacks Wakanda. We've seen a lot of that in the trailers and stuff, the daytime when they're attacking and all this and that. And the scene's pretty cool. I mean, it looks good. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but it is probably one of the more exciting, cool action scenes in the movie. That was one of the issues I had with my spoiler-free review, is that a lot of the action in this movie, while choreographed well and done well, shot well and all that, just kind of lacks that something to get you really, really excited. But all that aside, at the end of this battle, he, or at least through his actions, kills or leads to the death of Angela Bassett's character, the Queen. She is dead, and Letitia Wright's Shuri comes and finds her, and now she's pissed because, you killed her mother, and she ain't happy about it. I was surprised by this. This is one thing I was not thinking they were going to do in the movie. It wasn't even on my mind that they were going to kill off another character. Obviously, they didn't kill off Chadwick Boseman. He actually tragically died in real life. But, his character did have to die in the beginning of the movie, which I guess we should get to that. I'll go back and get to that one in a minute. That's one we should probably touch on. That's a spoiler, right? Yeah, everybody's like, hey, you kind of passed one big spoiler there in the beginning. Let's finish this one, then we'll get to that one. That's just how my mind works. But anyway, they killed her off, and this leads to Shuri becoming Black Panther. It leads her down a road of vengeance, if you will. Now, let's go back to the very beginning of the movie, to that big spoiler I missed. Can't believe I missed that one. Chadwick Boseman's death, King T'Challa. The movie starts, as soon as it starts out with it, they are looking for, Shuri is trying to come up with a cure. She's trying to synthesize the purple flower that they use to turn people into the Black Panther. Whatever disease, we get the idea. It tells us he is dying. He's on his deathbed. We don't see him. He's like in another room, but the computer AI is like telling her, hey, his heart rate is dropping. It's here, and she's frantically trying to synthesize it and can't quite get it there. she gets it to something like 29%. And she's like, that's good enough, we'll have to do it. And she synthesizes it. She goes up there and grabs it. And as she goes down the hall to give it to him, that's when Angela Bassett's character comes out and just stares at her with sad eyes. And they know, hey, he's passed. I think she does say your brother has passed away. And that's the beginning of the movie. That's what it happened. The movie it does say he died from a mysterious illness. And apparently he needed this flower to heal him. And as we know in the last movie, Killmonger, Michael B. Jordan's character, destroyed all the other flowers so no one else could take it. So she's trying to synthesize it to save him, is unable to do it. King T'Challa is dead. So that is how they got around it, and the rest of the movie is them, or at least the first half of the movie is them grieving. The whole movie, but especially the first half. But so that's how they got around it. I thought that the way that they did this was, given the task they had to, since they weren't going to recast it, which I think that they should have. I just outright think they should have recasted it. I don't think it is disrespectful to recast that role, seeing as how, unfortunately, Boseman died. They recast roles that people pass away in all the time. I think that this would have been a better movie, markedly better, had they just recast the role. And, they could have paid their respects to him in some other way in the film. I did like how at the beginning of the movie, the Marvel Studios logo that usually has all the characters and stuff in the background flipping around, it was all Black Panther. It was all Chadwick Boseman, his face and everything. I thought that was really nice. And it was done, like, totally quiet. Like, it came on, there was no music, no nothing. It was just silent, and you just saw the pictures flipping. That was really nice. Now, I will say that after that, the whole funeral procession and all the stuff that we have of him and his passing, it was sad, but you already know it going in. It's not a surprise. I wasn't like, it didn't hit me in the feel. I mean, I was like, well, that's sad, but hey, that they dealt with that well. I never once was like tearing up or anything like that. No, granted, I traditionally don't cry at movies very often, but I can feel that feeling a lot of the time. And I looked around in the theater that was pretty packed, and I didn't see anybody else really. I didn't hear a bunch of sniffling and stuff. It wasn't like the end of Titanic or something. I was expecting that a lot more, but didn't get it. Not to say that it wasn't well done and it wasn't, heartfelt, but it didn't hit me the way that I think that they wanted it to. And it didn't seem like a lot of other people in the audience, it was hitting them hard like that either. Not to say that it was bad, but it just wasn't hitting that way. I don't want people, just bawling in the audience or anything. So anyway, but after that, there's not a whole lot of spoilers between there and the death of Angela Bassett's Queen character. We go into Letitia Wright's character, Shuri. She finally is able to. She gets captured by Namor, by the way, and she goes there, spends some time with him, and get some backstory. We find out where he came from, that he's really fucking old, where his people came from. We get a lot of information about I can't remember what they call themselves, but the underwater, more or less the Atlantians. They're not Atlanteans, but they're fucking Atlanteans, Mayan Atlanteans. But we get a lot of information about them, but I just felt like we got information. I never sympathized with these characters, and I wanted to, and the movie wants you to, but I never felt for them. I should have. They are sympathetic characters, but they're not. They're just, I don't know. They give you a lot of information, lots of telling, but we don't really get to see it. We see the world, we see the characters, we see this kingdom, but you don't get to see something that makes you sympathetic. You just hear about it. It's told to you. So I never really felt sympathetic. And I think the movie really depended on you feeling sympathetic for these peoples to kind of have this dichotomy between the Wakandans and the not Atlanteans, and you just don't. I just didn't feel it for them, and that's unfortunate. I think that would have the movie would have played out a lot better had you kind of had this struggle between them in your own head, but you just don't. I mean, they're the bad guys. They're not necessarily all bad, but they are the bad guys, and you just don't really feel much for them, and that sucks. You've got a lot of information about them. You know where they are, how they became to be, and all that, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't hit with me. So anyway, this is what leads Shuri to finally, she is able to synthesize. When she's there, he gives her a bracelet. They have vibranium too in this Not Atlantis, and the bracelet is made from that flower or something like that. or at least from parts of it. So she uses the bracelet, and that's how she's able to finally synthesize this flower. I really thought, because she's like really excited, and they're excited and just kind of tearful when they create it, that it was going to maybe like touch on the fact, like at least have her reminisce sadly, because she's still tore up about her brother at this point. She's still wrestling with her demons, because she's all about vengeance at this point. I was really expecting, and like I expected it like I wanted it to happen, her to kind of reminisce that, or lament that, you know, I wish I was, because it's been a year since T'Challa died in the universe, that, oh, I did this, but I was too late. I wish I had, if only I had been able to do this a year ago, I could have saved my brother or something like that. It never comes up. She never says it. It never, I mean, it's never even alluded to. And I'm like, that, I just feel like that's how it would hit me if I was in that situation. That I'd be like, there it is. There's the cure that could have saved my loved one. But unfortunately, I just wasn't, you know, because she puts a lot of it on her own shoulders, but that she doesn't for some reason. I don't know, but whatever. So she gets this thing. She goes through the little trial thing like T'Challa did in the first movie. And, you know, how he went and he saw his ancestors like his dad and the other Panthers that came before him and everything. She sees Killmonger. Yeah, Michael B. Jordan. He has a cameo in the movie, and that was a really cool scene. I really liked that. She shows up. It's not her mom. It's not her brother. It's none of them. Not her father. It's Killmonger. And he's like, you know, yeah, they see those people because that's who they liken to. You know, your brother saw your father and all that because he's noble like them. You are like me, and because I get shit done. You know, I am all about some vengeance, and that's what you're all about. So yeah, you're seeing me. And he pushes her to that, and she's like, I'm nothing like you, but. And he's like, well, what are you gonna be? You gonna be noble like your brother, or are you gonna, you know, you gonna get shit done like me? You gonna do what has to be done? And she's like, I'm gonna do what's got to be done, because she's, you know, pretty pissed. Not only was her brother taken from her, but now this guy that she's about to go fight killed her mother, or indirectly killed her mother at least. So yeah, she ain't happy about the situation. She's pretty mad at this guy. She wants him dead. And of course that becomes a thing. You know that the movie is not going to end with her like violently murdering Namor and just, you know, going that way. If it did, I would have given mad props to the movie and been like, hell yeah, see, it did. I did not expect that. But no, it didn't. Of course, by the end, she has a change of heart. So then they go to capture Namor. Apparently, Namor, he's like as strong as like anybody in the MCU. Like nobody can touch him. He flies around. He's got the little, the wings on his. We've all seen it on his ankles. Looking like Icarus or something. I couldn't get away from those. I mean, the character design itself, I didn't have a problem with. I'm not familiar with the character in the comics, so I'm not even comparing it to that. I know the wings come from the comics. He wasn't like Mayan inspired in the comics, I don't think, is what I've heard, but whatever. The character design I was cool with. It was just the wings. The little flapping wings on his feet, anytime it'd show him like all badass coming in with like the deep like Inception horns music and all that, and then like it would pan down and you see his little wings on his feet going. It never did it look cool. Not once. And I get it was in the comic book, but lots of things are in the comic books. They work on the page, they don't work on the screen. Just have him fly. I mean, just say he controls the air around. I don't know. I mean, them little ass wings, that's what's supporting him around? Yeah, that's more believable than he could just fucking fly. Or something. I don't know. Give him, I don't care. Just not the little wings on his ankles. That just, I don't. And you can't say you're being comic book accurate because, like I said, my understanding is the character design beyond the wings is totally different from the comic book. So I don't know. The wings thing, I wouldn't have done it. But hey, whatever. It wasn't like a total deal breaker, but I ain't gonna lie. Every time it showed up, I gave it a little chuckle in my head. Anyway, they go to fight. We find out that Namor's weakness is water. Well, not water. It's the lack of water. Water is his strength because he is most of his people have to breathe underwater, and that's what happened to his people. They can't breathe outside of the water. He can breathe in water or above water, and it's because his skin absorbs the water. But whenever he's like wanting to get a little bit more power, he jumps in the water and comes out even more powerful. They find out, oh, let's dry him out. So they get him in this ship, and they're having the big fight. All the Wakandans and the not Atlantians are just you know, big Marvel fight. There's no skybeam, I'll give it that. Not that I remember. I don't think there was a skybeam. So there's that. But they get him on a ship, him and Shuri on a ship, and they turn on these dehydrators or something like that, and they dry him out. They crash and on a beach, and you know, they start beating the shit out of each other. He's getting weak. He stabs her like pretty mortally, honestly. I mean, it's in the stomach, but it's kind of through the center. Like, it's a hell of a hit she gets. But she like breaks that off and goes and beats the shit out of him and is about to kill him. And this is the thing. When this happens, she doesn't, of course. She holds the thing to him and she's like, you yield and we will, not tell the world about you and all this and that, but you leave Wakanda alone. He's like, I yield, blah, blah, blah. That's the thing. When it was happening, when she's sitting there pinned to this wall, stabbed, and he's trying to like stumble over to the water, immediately, okay, she's going to get off of that. She's going to go get him. She's going to hold him down and then have a change of heart or something and become the better person. That's exactly what happens. Do something new. Have her character just kill his ass or try, or, not redeem herself. Because she's not a terrible person for wanting revenge for these awful things that have happened to her from this awful person. Have the fallout from that. I mean, I was never surprised. I was not once surprised. That would have surprised the shit out of me had she done that and the movie ended with them saying, okay, because the one big thing is they say, Winston Duke's character is like, if you kill him, you're just going to incur the wrath of his people. Then you're going to thrust Wakanda and these not Atlantians into war. You're going to take your people to war because of your vengeance. And that is a good point. A very good point. But it's also a point that she should have, we should have seen that. She should have just killed him. And then, like, we go into, like, the movie goes out. It could have ended pretty much the same way and just kind of been like, maybe she has that realization after she realizes, shit, I just started a war. And they got to deal with that fault. That would have been a far more interesting thread, but no, we're not going to do that. Instead, he goes down, he submits his people. He goes and calls his people off. They go down. One of his people in the end is like, I wanted to fight beside you and destroy Wakanda. And he was like, now Wakanda's on our side. So when the surface dwellers come after them, they will come to us and we will be stronger than ever. Or something, I don't know. But we also have Ironheart shows up, Riri's character. Fucking name. But this is just a wasted character. This character got on my nerves because she was so shoehorned into the movie. I was just like, get the fuck out of here. Every time she showed up, I was like, why are you here? And they had this really basic ass montage of her building this Ironheart suit, which, if you don't know, she is going to be the new quote unquote Iron Man. She's taking Iron Man's place as the Iron Man of this universe. So she's a college kid at this point. And she gets her suit, and man, it looks like Samus Aran from Metroid. I've heard some people say it was like a Power Ranger and stuff like that. No, it's fucking Samus Aran. You want a Metroid movie? There's your main character right there. It doesn't sound like it. She walks around annoyingly going, "Let's go!" and all that stuff, and it's just like, but why are you here? What is this? Every now and then, like in this big battle in the end, all these characters that you've been following are doing this stuff. Every now and then, you just see this robot chick go and do something. You're just like, what are you even doing? You're just there. You're there for VFX artists to have a job for the day. Render you and put you in there doing things, but none of it's pretty all inconsequential, honestly. She made the thing that finds the vibranium, but really anybody could have done it. I don't know. She did not need to be in this movie nearly as much as she was, but yeah, that's really, there is one more spoiler. I'm sorry. The very end of the movie, it has Shuri goes, and there's this ritual that we learn about in the beginning of the film. Their robes that they wore to her brother's funeral, and I presume her mother's as well. The mother, Angela Bassett's character, tells her, you burn these. That's kind of your way of moving past it, moving on. You've grieved. Now I burn these, and I'm letting go. I'm moving past my grief and moving on with my life. And she does not burn hers. Her mother burns hers. And at the end of the movie, she goes to, I can't remember the character. I think it was Lupita Nyong'o's character. I think that was her, who is living in Haiti now. I think she was like in the first movie. It's been a while since I've seen the first movie. I think she was T'Challa's not wife. Was it wife or girl? Woman, if you will, his significant other. She is living in Haiti now. And they do enlist her to help track down where Shuri is earlier in the movie. It's kind of like, what? Why? This is just a lot of extra character stuff going on in this movie that we don't even need. But it does come back around to that in the end. Shuri goes to see Nakia. That's her name. She goes to see her. And Winston Duke becomes the king. instead of Shuri. Everybody's expecting Shuri to come out. I knew that was going to happen. That, like, long before it happened, I was like, she's never going to be queen or the ruler of Wakanda. She's not. I guarantee she's going to turn it over to Winston Duke, because they had like a bit of a thing in the movie, not a thing like a romantic thing, but like some dialogue in it where he said he'd always be there to watch over her. And I did enjoy his character in the movie, by the way, even more so than the first one. I liked him in the first one. But at the end, it shows up and they're like, here is your princess or your queen or whatever. And Winston Duke gets off and he's like, no, it's me, bitches. And he's like, I challenge anyone for the throne. Of course, nobody challenges him. She chose not to. He said, I'm here on her behalf. She told me that, she ain't gonna be here. Peace out. She goes to Haiti and she meets Nakia. She goes out to a beach and she goes to burn her robe. And so she can move past her brother's death. Now, at this point, I mentioned in my review how the movie had a great ending. This was it. I thought this was a very, not to sound like really pretentious, but a beautiful moment. It really, truly was. It was just her sitting on the beach, closing her eyes, burning this, and truly letting go of it. And we get flashes from the first film of her and Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa. And that was a touching moment. That was very well done. Like, she's sitting there and you see her just kind of letting it go. It's extremely well done. It's not a very long scene. It also was very silent. The movie knows when to just go silent. And you just see these flashes, like in her memory. You're seeing her memories of them just like hugging or walking up and just kind of like greeting each other and things like that. And it's her letting go, but it's also the movie, the filmmakers, paying tribute to Boseman and what he did with the first film. I thought that was beautiful. That was really damn well, and it was a great way, a very heartfelt way to go out in the film. If there was any point in this movie I think people would be crying, it would be that point. I didn't cry myself, and no, I'm not trying to be like, me, big man, I don't cry. I don't give a shit. If I cry, I'll be like, hey, yeah, I cried. But I didn't. I did feel it, though. I was like, yeah, that's the feels right there. And it does hit you there. But there's more. There's not an end credit scene, and it kind of cuts off there, but there is a mid-credit scene. And the mid-credit scene is, I don't even see why they put it as a mid-credit, because it's just a continuation of that scene. Because the scene just kind of ends, it stops, and it goes to, the credits, and then we have a Rihanna song, and then after that first half of the credits with the Rihanna song, it picks right back up there, and Nakia shows up behind her, and she's like, hey, and she shows up with a little boy next to her, and immediately, that's T'Challa's son. Which, there's been no hint that he had up to this point, but apparently, because, he was part of the blip, or the snap, whatever we call it, where he was gone for 5 years. I guess she was pregnant before then, and had him, and everybody knew, and they knew, and they have a short dialogue, and we find out, yes, that is his son. He looks to be probably 10-ish years old, somewhere in there. But like, she talks to him, and he says, yeah, I know who I am, and I'm the heir to the throne of, my name is, Prince T'Challa, or something like that. And she's just like, oh, that's great and all that, and she's still crying a bit, and it's a really nice scene as well. I guess this kid's gonna show up at some point as something. Apparently, the Angela Bassett's character had met him, and I guess Chadwick Boseman's character met him. So they were aware of him, but nobody else knows. Nobody else knows this kid exists, and until now, that's when she just found out, when Shuri found out. So the movie goes out with, there is another heir to the throne, T'Challa's son, T'Challa. Because his name's T'Challa too. He has another name, but he said, my Wakanda name is T'Challa. So named after his dad, I guess. So yeah, that's it, man. Yeah, sure, there's other little spoilers here or there, but that's really the only spoilers of the movie. Overall, the movie was okay. It was fine. The first half, you got the stuff in the first half where they're explaining T'Challa's passing, and like the first maybe 20 minutes, but then there's like a 40-minute, probably 45 minutes, maybe even a little bit longer chunk there after that is slow. Like, not slow burn, just fucking slow. And it doesn't borderline on boring. There are points that it just does get kind of boring. It's not the whole thing's boring, but man, it wears on you. For me, it did, at least. I know I heard a few other people I know personally say it did with them as well. So it does pick up at that middle section, right around when that battle happens at Wakanda and the Queen dies. That whole battle, from the beginning of that battle sequence to the end of the movie, is more entertaining. More things are happening. There's still character development going on too, and I love character development, but damn, it was just really damn slow in the beginning half. But the second half of the movie is more entertaining. It's never like just like fuck yeah, like I was hoping it would be, but it is much more entertaining, and I enjoyed that part of the movie a lot more. And the end of the movie I thought was great. Like the very, very end. The battle thing in the end, I really, whatever. I didn't care. It was fine. Like everything else, it was fine. So it's a solid movie. If you're an MCU fan, like the hardcore MCU fans, if you've been enjoying Phase 4, you're gonna fucking love this movie. Because this is the best one in Phase 4 by far. But if, like me and many other people, honestly, you've been very critical of Phase 4, I think you'll look at this movie and say, yeah, it was entertaining, but it does have its flaws. Definitely has its flaws. Wasn't seeing the Angela Bassett's character dying, though, either. And I wasn't seeing Killmonger come back, even though people have been rumoring it, but, I think that was just wishful thinking. Didn't see that. I thought they did that really well. But everything else saw coming a mile away. All of it. I mean, there were no real surprises. The spoilers I talked about, besides the kid. I mean, how the hell would I see that? No, there's been no mention of this whatsoever. And he just shows up. I didn't see that coming because there's just been no way to. But everything else, yeah, I saw that coming. But like I said in I stand by my original review of worth checking out on streaming, because that's where I think it belongs. I don't think that this, had I not seen this in theaters, if I didn't have a YouTube channel where I talk about movies, I would have been okay waiting for this to come out on streaming. I don't really see spending a whole lot of money to go see it. I mean, but if you're a huge fan, that's you. This is my opinion. If you go see it and you loved it, that's great. I'm happy that you enjoyed it. But myself, it was fine. It didn't blow me away like I was hoping it would, and it definitely is not as good as the first one. But hey, that's my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments below if you've seen Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and if you thought it was just the greatest MCU movie ever, or like me, you just thought it was good, and it is the best one in Phase 4. I'll give it that. But I don't know. Spider-Man, I guess Spider-Man is part of Phase 4. But it's kind of like that's a Sony thing too. I don't really consider... It's the best in Phase 4 of anything that doesn't have Spider-Man in it. Because I guess the two Spider-Man movies were the best things in Phase 4 up to this point, in my opinion. But, even those... Yeah, just, take Spider-Man out of the equation. It's the best thing in Phase 4. But let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed this movie, or if you agree with my comments, or if you just think my comments are ridiculous and unfounded. Just keep it all respectful, because we're all do our opinion. If you did enjoy it, I'm happy for you. I'm really happy you went and saw this movie and really super enjoyed it. I had a good time, but I just wish it was better. But that's what I got. Let me know in the comments below what you think.